Good morning. It's time for our daily devotion. And today we are in Acts chapter 17. Here we have the story of Paul in Athens. He's there waiting on Silas and Timothy to arrive. They've been run out of a couple of different cities. And so, for safety reasons, Paul has gone on ahead to Athens. And he's waiting there for his partners in ministry to come so that they can share the message of Jesus there. While he's there alone, he begins walking around the city. He notices all of these idols and even an altar to an unknown God. Now, you notice that in the context of Paul talking to the Jews, he uses Old Testament stories, he uses the Old Testament prophecies to talk to the Jewish people about their current faith and then bring them to the place where he can introduce and interject Jesus into the conversation. But here, he's not talking to Jews. He's talking to Gentiles. Specifically, he's talking to Greeks. He's talking to the intellectuals, to the philosophers of the day who gather daily to talk about these deep things of life. And so when Paul talks to them, he talks in their context, in their understanding, not the Old Testament laws, the Old Testament rules, the Old Testament prophecies, but instead he refers to their philosophers, to their stories, to their poets. And we have a big word for this. It's called contextualization. Just simply means that we speak to people in the context, with the background that they have. And here's what happens. As Paul begins to talk to those intellectuals at Athens, he uses their context, he uses their reference points, he uses their own philosophies and philosophers and poets to bring them to a place where he can talk to them about Jesus, about the one true God. And in our life, as we share the gospel with people, we've got to come to the place of understanding and realizing that the most effective way to do that is to speak to the context in which people are living, the situations that they're dealing with, the places that they live. What we do so much of the time is we talk to people outside of the church from a church perspective. We use the words of religiosity. We use the words of Christianity. We use hymns. We use Bible verses. We use all the things that you and I accept as truth and that is our context, but is not the context of the world. And so many times what happens is we lose them before we ever get started because they don't understand the words that we use. They don't understand the religious terms that we use. They don't understand our churchese, our Christianese. They don't get that. They don't understand it. And so I'm encouraging you today, as you talk to people, talk to them where they're hurting. Talk to them where they're searching. Talk to them where they're living. Talk to them about experiences that they're having. Talk to them about the brokenness of their life. Talk to them about the needs that they have. And then use that as a foundation, as a groundwork to be able to talk to them about the answer to their problems, about how Jesus can meet their needs, how he can meet them in their deepest distress and their problems and their brokenness. And when you use the gospel and when you talk about Jesus in context of people's lives, they're much more apt to hear you and receive the message. That's what Paul did here in Acts chapter 17. And it's what I encourage you to do. It's what all of us need to be doing as we go out and make it a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.